Hi everybody, this is Maya Good. I'm in New Orleans and I want to talk to you a little bit about surrounding yourself with artists, regardless of what kind of art they do. It's something that I've been experimenting with since I've been in New Orleans and I want to tell you a little bit about it. So when I first got here, I stayed in a hostel for the first week and then I moved to a house. I rented a room in the lower ninth ward. It was an amazing experience. I'll talk to you guys about that in a later video. But the house I moved into, there were two other girls that lived there. They were college students, and I never felt entirely comfortable there. And after a month, I moved out, went back to the hostel for a week while I looked for an alternate place to live. Where I ended up living is what is considered the old art house. So there was a huge mansion that was renovated into a bunch of different rooms, and a bunch of different artists lived in those rooms. And it was pretty well known. There was a huge art installation here. They used to do tours, whatnot. And after a while, it got sold, and everyone was afraid that when it got sold, all the artists would be moved out. And so while the huge art installations on the grounds were removed, it's still full of artists, which has been an amazing experience. So I moved here about 2 weeks ago, 2.5, 3 weeks ago. And so far, my writing has really blossomed being here. Um, there's musicians that live here. There's actually a lot of musicians that live here, painters, a couple guys do sculpture. Um, there is somebody here that does like fashion design and like designing like leather and stuff. And so, regardless of what I'm doing, I'm surrounded by extremely creative people. And so, already I was finding myself being inspired just being surrounded by so many creative people. As an example, within the first 2 or 3 days I was here, I came out of my room and was suddenly faced with a composer who was working on a new song with a pianist. And so they were sitting there and I was watching them collaborate. I was watching how they went forward and back and forward and back, and how each attempt was like a performance attempt rather than just going through the motions. Each time they went over the song, it was like it was being performed. And I was watching that and I started thinking about how that reflects on my writing, how even when I'm practicing, even when I'm just testing the waters, I need to give it my all. And it was very, very inspiring to me and instrumental in the next short story I wrote. And that's just one example. Another example is the other day, one of the guys came in. He said he was having a couple friends over, and every few weeks they get together and they show each other their work. One of the girls is another writer. One of the guys was a filmmaker, and the guy that lived here was a musician. And so here I was sitting around this table, and I was watching a documentary that was being edited. I was listening to a young lady's short story, and she was new to writing, and it was extremely good. And I was listening to music, and we all were sharing our work and collaborating and telling each other how the pieces made us feel, telling each other what pieces stood out to us, what parts stood out to us. And even though two of the guys weren't writers, their input was really valuable, because the truth is, once you send your work out into the world, the people reading it aren't going to be writers, they're going to be readers. And they're having another artist look at your work face to face. You know, when you're talking with a musician, they might talk to you about words that stood out with them, or scenes that stood out, or the rhythm of your writing. When you're talking to a filmmaker, they may give you feedback that's really visual based. And those are all things that are extremely helpful as a writer. Uh, I really strive in my writing to be able to touch all the senses. It's something I'm struggling with on the current short story I'm working on, but it's something that I'm learning, and it's something that I think is really important. And being able to sit down at a table and talk to other writers, and also have that support group element to recognize that the struggles you have may be the same struggles that somebody else has, even though their medium is completely different from yours. I think it's different than online groups because I've been a part of online groups. Um, and honestly, I find so much more value in being face to face with other artists, whether they're writers or not. It adds an extra dynamic element where you're not just typing and then responding. You're feeding off of one another in a way that you don't necessarily get online. And so I just wanted to bring this up. I thought it was a really amazing experience. I've been in environments where I worked with writers who wrote different genres, and found that valuable. But I never would have guessed just how valuable it was being around other artists who work in mediums that are very different from mine. So until next time, ciao.